Hello to everybody that is watching and those listening. This is Lisa Seif. We do a podcast together, my brother, Dr. Jeffrey Seif, and I, every chance we get just to talk about recovery, discovery, uncovery. And I'm wearing this shirt tonight because I'm so proud my brother that you're going to meet here in a minute will be a graduate again and a PhD from Cambridge University in England. And our nephew, Evan, just traveled there to see him and said it was just the most enlightening experience just to be with Jeff. And I know you will find that too. He's my baby brother. He's 10 months younger than me. My life took a turn into addiction to substances. His life took a turn into addiction to academia and studying. And now we are both proudly recovering in our addictions. I am clean and sober since March 6, 1981. And he has been graduating and gathering up research and degrees since 1980, since before 1981. So I'm excited to start the new year of 2024 with my baby brother that just got back from Israel with his awesome wife, Barry. So I'm just ready to hear all about your travels, Jeffrey, and just what you're doing, how 2023 shaped up for you, and anything else.
Well, thank
Hi,
you. And by the
love
way,
you.
love you too, love, and thank you for the affirmation. But unlike you, I'm still addicted. Your drug you got the better of for me, but I want to continue to learn and live and love and grow, and it's just a
Yes.
way of life. And so, whether you do it formally through education, I'll be 73 when I finish this degree at Cambridge. It's a part-time PhD. But whether someone does it formally or informally, just a book on the nightstand or whatever, it's just important to think new thoughts. I know in the addiction world, people talk about stinking thinking. Well, there's stinking thinking
Well,
too. There's just thought processes that are worn out. They're yesterday's news, and they need to be replaced with a new way of thinking. Let me illustrate if I can, and it's a good New Year's.
oh, please do, because I'm moving around a little bit. I wanted you to know I'm still addicted to learning and loving too.
I know you are, honey. I'm just playing playful.
It's
Albert
great.
Einstein was leaving a lecture hall with his assistant when he was lecturing at Oxford University. And this is an anecdotal story that I picked up when I was a master's student at Cambridge. So Einstein was leaving the classroom after having just delivered a test. He asked a question, and then the doctoral students were busy scribbling away in their blue books to give an answer. And they're leaving the place, and Einstein's teacher assistant looks at him and said, "Professor Einstein, the question that you just asked them, was not that the same test that you gave them last year? Wasn't it the same question?" And Einstein said, "Yes." To which his teacher assistant said, "Why did you ask him again?" And Einstein said, "Because the answer changed." I, I,
Wow.
I think it's a great point. We keep learning, and the name of the game is to stay on top of it. So there.
So it's the same questions, different answers as we learn and as we go.
We learn more, and as we grow as human beings, sometimes the new information um, buttresses, it strengthens perspective that we had. If we can, as we continue to go and grow in 2024, some of the new information we encounter will strengthen things that we hold to be true right now. Other information will cause us to tweak perspectives that we had in 2023. Other information might cause us to reject things we held to be true in 2023 in light of new things we learned in 2024. The name of the game is we've got to keep open and keep growing, and people stop.
Yes, and from a mental health perspective, that's where we see a lot of pathological risk factors and illnesses start up when people stop learning, stop growing, stop being curious, stop connecting to other people and things that are important. So your
Yeah.
field and my field, theology and psychology, are so alike.
Well, here, if you drove a car, okay, let's say it's windy, it's rainy, it's icy, and the road is windy and it's late at night. Okay. Now, if you're driving a car under those conditions or any conditions, you've got to keep the better part of your focus in the windshield. Too many people drive looking in the rearview mirror. Here's what happened in the past and this and that. And life is challenging enough as it is as we make our way through various circumstances. And with forever looking in the past, there's only so much that we can focus on, and it diminishes our ability to deal with the circumstances of the present and getting to the future, it seems to me.
See, it's so interesting to me that the philosophical and theological explanations you have are so fitting to what I've learned in the recovery pathways in my life. And one of the sayings is that we always, when we're in our addictive disorder, we are always looking in the rear view mirror, but that's watching for police officers like you to pull us over and stop us and take us in for blood tests and urinalysis.
Yeah.
But that looking in the rear view mirror, yeah, that can keep us stuck for sure, unless it moves us forward.
To be sure, there's something to be said for it. Now, I don't know the big book that's kind of like the Bible in recovery, but I know the Bible book. And
I know you know that,
if
yes.
you look at faith itself, I haven't been theological up to this point as much as philosophical, though I grant there's a
Right.
relationship between the two. But faith itself is this, it's this looking into the future, believing for a positive outcome, as opposed to just, living in the moment or being vexed by the past. I mean, faith is this forward thinking look that's just got to be
Yes.
there. And then what happens is that people just get stuck. They had a car accident, or I mean, and life is like a car accident. A marriage, ran into a tree, ran into a ditch. An addiction, sent them into a head-on collision.
Lots of ditches, yes.
And what happens is you're in the car and you get out. You're a little confused and befuddled. I get it. But drive on we must. At the end of the day, you're going to have to get a new car and get back on the highway. A lot of people just are stuck on the side of the road.
Well, and again, research keeps showing us faith. People that have faith, even if they don't believe in a God necessarily that they visually pray to, but if they have that spirit of faith, they do better in life.
That's true. And if you believe in like mercy and forgiveness, you can push a reset button. Listen,
Yes.
listen, no matter what you've done in your past, if you can push a reset button, the Jews do it. We pray for forgiveness. There's Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. With Christians, there's the cross. Come to Jesus, take your sins there, and you leave them there. You get up. There's a reset button, and people need that, not just for major life events, but even Jesus taught his disciples to pray, forgive us our trespasses daily as we forgive those who trespass against us. Now, there's no perfection in this world, and people are so mired in guilt, shame, and blame and all those energies that could be used for forward thinking and visioning are just stuck because people are stuck in a trench. I mean, God forgives. There's a new beginning. There's new horizons to be sought out, even for those that have gotten jammed up in life.
Well, maybe you can help me now in step 8 and 9 of the 12 steps that are our principles and guidelines in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12-step programs. Step 8 and 9 is about making a list of people that we feel we've harmed. And then step 9 is being willing to make amends to them all. Now, I know in Judaism we have teshuvah, and there's 3 steps to that. It's, yes, acknowledging that I have done wrong, but it's also admitting that I regret that I did wrong, and I will do my best to not do that again. In Christianity, is there that process, or do you just say, please forgive me and you're forgiven? Or do you have to do like teshuvah in Christianity?
The term repent, the New Testament word repent,
Yes.
in Hebrew, teshuvah, it means to change your direction. You're walking north, you pivot, and you start walking south. The word in the New Testament, when Jesus says repent, the Greek word metanoia means change your mind. In other words, change where you're focusing. Same kind of thing.
Okay.
If you're looking at one way, and then wherever your eyes go, eventually your body's going to wind up there. It's that turning. So conceptually, it's much the same.
Yeah.
People might articulate it a little differently. But there is this getting a hold of our life and change, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why New Year's is great, in that, it's one of those points in life, it's like a nodal point where people are game to reflect on their life, whether it's to lose a little weight or strengthen this or to do better on that. People make resolutions.
Yes.
And, even if they don't keep them, and a lot of people don't, nevertheless, the season lends itself toward, forgetting what lies behind and looking forward to what lies ahead, which is a Bible verse, by the way. And
So can I jump to what lies ahead for my brother? I would love for you to share with us what your research is about because as protectors, and I'm a sponsor and a therapist, so I'm a protector in a way. You've been in the police force training and developing curriculum, but what you're doing now at Cambridge, I think is really going to change the world in amazing ways. Would you mind sharing a little bit without going, I'm not asking you to do the whole thing, but sharing because I think it's exciting,
well,
your research.
in terms of you're going to change the world in great ways, what I'll do is I'll publish a dissertation that will be stuck in a library that no one will read by other scholars.
No, your sister's gonna be pushing it. It's Tikkun alone. Yes.
I don't know about changing the world. Actually, once every generation, an Einstein comes along or a Da Vinci, someone who just, this genius that changes everything. But aside from those people that push us to take big steps, scholarship moves along incrementally, just a little bit, at a time. And I'll be one
Yeah.
of the sands on the seashore, hopefully, when I finish. But I can't really speak with certainty about the results of an experiment that hasn't run its course. But in as much as individuals in the culture have been wanting to see if police can be more kindly disposed toward marginalized persons. There's concern that policing on the whole has been uh, a bit too insensitive, and that police officers can be discriminatory, subtly so, not even aware of a bias. And whether or not that's true, to the extent that people want to make the case, is open to question. It depends who you talk to. But nevertheless, certainly when you're training people, whether it's for police or whatever, you certainly want to help people be more kindly and more kindly disposed toward the brother from another mother. Not only different races, different classes, different persuasions in life. People can be intolerant. People can be intolerant and abusive toward homosexual persons and the like, irrespective of what someone might think about Democrats or Republicans or gays or this or that. Nevertheless, we live in a multicultural world, and it's important for us to be kindly disposed toward those that happen to live in a different kind of intellectual, emotional cosmos. And it's adjudged to be problematic if police who live in their world are insensitive toward those that live in other worlds. And so my research is, I have a randomized control trial in play, and I'm looking to see if we can find ways in training to help those who exercise power to be more kindly disposed toward marginalized persons. So um, that's in a nutshell, what I'm interested in that regard.
Isn't there a lot of police training and sensitivity the past decade, actually past 2 decades probably, where there have been trainings and curriculums to increase police approach to
Yes,
people,
no.
especially with mental illness?
Yes and no. That if you look at policing, there's 18,000 different police departments uh, in North America, and they're all regulated by state posts. And the curriculum for training for peace officers differs in all of them. In fact, in some, if you want to go back to Ferguson, Missouri, with hands up, don't shoot, there individuals can be hired as police officers without going through any training. What it is they're hired, they're given a badge and a gun, which is the way it was in our parents' day, and then
Yes.
learned on the job. But in Missouri, for example, that individuals at the time would get hired, they'd go out on the street, but then they would have to, within 2 years, go to a police academy. But what would happen is they would work, 22 months and then go to another department, and they just rotate around. You can rotate around a whole career without getting any training. At least in a police academy, there's craft knowledge that's passed on how to do things. But there is no universal standard for policing. Now, the Department of Justice does surveys of police academies in the United States, and you can see trends. There's more of an interest. But if you look at the most recent 50-state survey done by Galia Cohen on police academy training, we're under 3-4% of the curriculum on the whole that deals with anything ethically related for police.
Wow.
Now, Texas is better. Texas is just shy of 12% the last I looked. If you look at the curriculum blocks, if you look at the total hours of the mandated curriculum and what percentage of them deals with ethics and multiculturalism, et cetera, Texas has a better program than most.
So,
but that's in North America.
so two questions then. I know you used the Holocaust in your research, and we both are grandchildren and children of survivors, and many perished in the Holocaust. What 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 drove you or motivated you to use the Holocaust in your research, number one? And then number two question is, do you see a lot of similarity in your policing and your preaching and teaching of the Old and New Testament?
Well, I'll deal with the first, and then we
Yes.
can kind of drift into the
Thank
second. The to my point earlier about knowledge moves incrementally. When I was a master's student at Cambridge, at the beginning of the program, my supervisor, Heather Strang, sent me a master's thesis and an article written by Deborah Platts, who was in charge of the National Academy in Australia, where they had no ethics training to speak of at the time. And there, the issue was the Europeans and the Aborigines, the tensions. There was no training. Now, Deborah Platts came to America, to the FBI Academy in DC, and she happened upon a program there called Police in the Holocaust, which has seen over 150,000 police officers in North America go through it. And it exposes police professionals to police culpability in the Holocaust. Now, she knew nothing about that. And when I looked at her research, I knew nothing about it. And I thought I was reasonably well informed. Now, when you think about it, it took more than a Hitler or a Himmler or an Eichmann to kill millions of 6 million Jews, never mind others. That if you look at, you have those that are vision casting, but it's the local police that were mobilized, that were co-opted to gather people up. And even before you had the industrial killing centers, like the concentration camps, in Operation Barbarossa, where the Wehrmacht moved east toward Russia, in the Ukraine, they killed between 1.3 and 1.8 million Jews, one bullet at a time. As the army went through, you have these Einsatzgruppen, these other specialized forces, police, that would go and round up non-combatants. And they took them out and they shot them one bullet at a time.
Oh, that's
And
awful.
if you're looking at, in fact, in one place, in Baba Yar in the Ukraine, in 2 days, they killed 32,000 people. They herded up Jews, one bullet at a time. This is police. Now, the story of police in the Holocaust shocked me. And I looked at it. I don't think that police officers are Nazis, though there might some within the more robust edge of movements that would claim that, you know, police are pigs, fry them in a blanket, you know, and defund. And, you know, I don't live in that space at all, emotionally, intellectually. I don't see that. My own experience as a police officer over 20 years, pound for pound, cops tend to be really decent people.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting to look at the story of police in the Holocaust. And I learned about it initially through Deborah Platts. And I've read a number of good books on it. I've interviewed in Germany children, descendants of those that were police in the Holocaust. And there's been research done. The Nazis were great note takers. And of course, they burned a lot of stuff. But a very famous book that's kind of advanced in Holocaust studies is by Christopher Browning, called Ordinary Men. and it's a deep dive into a reserve police battalion 101 in Germany, individuals and how these police that weren't even Nazified became ardent killers. So
Why did that? Why?
why did they do it? How
Yeah.
did they do it? Well,
Why were they anti-Semitic? Did they buy into the Jews are no good?
well, that was one of the things that interested Browning. If you look at people that signed up for the police, at least in Reserve Battalion 101, you have all the information. These are not your young Zionist enthusiasts, your Hitler Youth types. These are middle-aged men who didn't sign up for the Nazi Party. But you have to check the box and do something as part of your national service in socialism. So they opted to become police instead of soldiers. They didn't want to do it. And Police Battalion 101, they tended to get these battalions from various locales. It was the least Nazified area of Germany, number one. Number two, if you look at the age bracket, this isn't the young Hitler Youth enthusiasts. These are middle-aged people. So a lot of those idealistic energies, are kind of dissipated by then, married people and what have you, but they have to do service and they go into it. And it's a story about how they, at first they're shocked, they're upset. Even the commander of the unit, they don't like the assignment. They're disturbed by it emotionally. But you go do it after doing it, some are horribly disturbed. But the question of how they did it, they were helped along by copious amounts of alcohol in the evening to, assuage their aggravated hearts and minds. Number one. Number two, they opted to do things where they could say they're not really killing, but they're participating. For instance, you can do the rounding up and driving the trucks, but you don't escort them into the fields and shoot them. There are ways that people participated in doing things, but they could tell themselves they're not really doing the dastardly thing. They're just part of the operation. And you leave it to the more robust sorts to actually go out there and pull the triggers. But it's a story of denial, the way people.
What's the name of the book, Saifi?
It's called Ordinary Man.
Have you ever heard of the book Obedience to Authority? It studies how the mind, when conflicted, will always go with what the authority tells them to do. It's a fascinating book by Milcham, Obedience to Authority.
Yeah, if you would send me that, right now
I will.
just on you, but it's the kind of book I want to read.
Yeah, you definitely would want to read it. They've done live research. I mean, Yale paid people to come and do it, and they electrocuted people. They were willing participants.
No. If you're talking, Milcham's, this is from a study that was done in California. If this is what you're talking about, where this was in the 70s,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the study. Yes, it is a classic study that's cited where you could get these college students to hurt people, or they thought
Yes.
and yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, Obedience to Authority, a fascinating book.
I thought I vaguely recognized the name.
I mean, it's just amazing what this mind can do. So for my 12-step program, it keeps us on the radar. In your work and works, it keeps you in the radar of being a kind, inclusive humanitarian. How did policing fit into your passion of preaching and teaching?
Well, frankly, it really looks like a contradiction.
Yeah.
That I was a Bible college and seminary professor.
Right.
I took a sabbatical, and most people take a sabbatical to go write a book. I took a sabbatical to go to the police academy, and people were like, "Jeffrey, that looks crazy." And granted, it does, but I had served as a police chaplain for a while, and I thought it was interesting and frankly a lot of fun. It's just interesting. It's a different, it's like being a cop is like getting a front row seat to a weird circus. You just get into stuff that most people don't see or experience. it's bizarre, and maybe it's the attractiveness to the bizarreness. I thought, oh my goodness. So what I did is I went through the police academy and through the field training, and I just donated a shift or two a week for a
I
decade.
know. I used to go on runs with you. I thought, oh my God, that's dangerous.
I took my wife Barry. She went out on patrol with me once, and that was enough. We got in a high-speed police chase. She didn't like it. She didn't like what in a 35-mile-an-hour speed zone. She didn't like 90 miles an hour. But we
No, I don't blame her.
did catch the person. And for me, I don't know, Lisa. I just thought it was really interesting,
Well,
and I
was it compatible with your life philosophy and passion? Because I'm
I mean,
thinking policing.
it was consistent with me. Other people thought it was crazy, but they think I'm crazy anyway. Wait, are you a Christian? Are you a Jew? Are you a pastor? Are you a professor? Are you an academic? Are you a Pentecostal? Are you a police?
Yes, yes,
They're
yes,
all
yes,
really- I don't know
yes.
what I'm all about anyway, but I'm comfortable in my own skin. I realize
Yes,
I'm an eccentric. Others thought it was
I am too.
incompatible, didn't make any sense. But for me, Lisa, I would go to bed at night and I would have the police radio under my pillow. So,
Oh,
for others, it's just chatter and static and everything, but I knew the language and I didn't want to miss a thing. I didn't mind getting up, to hear something going on. So there was just something about it that really resonated with me. And
well, something led you there and kept you there for a long time, and now your research is still there. But it's interesting to me when I read your literature review, it does tie into your whole lifespan of
it
service.
does. That's where it starts to make a little bit of sense. And I know we're running out of time. Time flies on these talks, but
Oh my gosh.
for me, um, while it didn't make sense to others when I began the journey, it makes more sense now. As a theologian, that it doesn't make any sense, but all of a sudden, wait a minute, he went to to Cambridge University, that's world class, wrote the top thesis of the year, and I got into
And
the PhD
it
program.
was recognized by all of his academic leaders.
Recognized, I got the top mark, and the chief scientist at Scotland Yard was the one that wrote my recommendation to the PhD program. And
Oh
now,
my,
as an academic, that ethics and training, it makes a little more sense that it didn't make 20 years ago when I was just a young buck as a cop.
I think that's fascinating. And we are so proud of you here in Indiana and hope to see more of you. In closing, how was Israel? I know you and Barry just got back from Israel. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's tough.
Yeah.
That Barry and I had a whirlwind trip. And one of the things we did is we went down to the Gaza area and met with soldiers there on the lines.
Wow.
I'll just recount. I mean, we're down there. We can look up in the sky and see jets streaking overhead, and we hear boom, 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 boom. The soldiers reminded that those were our people firing, not being fired at. But we're that close to it. A thing
Yeah.
that to me was really telling is when I spoke to the soldiers there, the reservists that were called up, no one wants to hurt civilians.
No.
There's if you look at these terrorists, these Hamas
I
people,
think the Hamas want to hurt
and
civilians.
they hide behind the skirts of their women. They do embed in hospitals and schools and mosques. And so then if there's a retaliation against their strike, they use it for propaganda purposes. It's just a bizarre way to fight a war. Even now, hiding in tunnels. If you want to pick a fight, come on out in the fight and let's do it man to man. But no, hiding underground, hiding behind women and children and molesting a population. I did see, by the way, today, uh, a uh, a professor and department chair at Princeton, interestingly, had reported on October the 6th the result of a study. This is a Muslim woman uh, and a professor there, a department chair. A survey was done in Gaza amongst Arab Muslims, what they thought about Hamas. And what was striking is even before the results of the study were published on October the 6th. Okay, the invasion into Israel was on October the 7th. Two-thirds of those in Gaza, they have zero confidence in Hamas. They think it's corrupt. It doesn't represent their interests or perspectives and what have you.
But they voted them in.
Well, they voted him in initially, but they haven't had an election in almost 20 years. So, it's they never took another
Oh,
vote. Hamas is an oppressive regime. So to the question specifically, the thinking is in Israel. Oh, by the way, my guess is, and everybody else's, after this runs its course, there'll be a new government. I doubt Bibi Netanyahu will survive it. The question is, why didn't we know this in advance?
right.
Number one, why were we caught with our trousers down? The way they mobilized afterward, and there's a weakness, and there'll be an investigation, and it happened under Netanyahu's watch.
That's
So
right.
hopefully, we'll get some new leadership in Israel with a reset button then, and we'll get some new leadership amongst Arab Muslims, and maybe we can find a way to build a better day. But it's going to have to be without Hamas. To your question initially, that people that I had conversated with, a number of them, by the way, over there, from soldiers in the field to people with a little more executive savvy, the feeling is that we regret having to go in. We don't want civilians to get hurt. They brought it upon themselves, but Hamas has got to go, and
Yes.
got to be a world without Hamas. And I'm good with that. I agree.
We sponsor a couple of Israeli students here that are at the University of Evansville. They're swimmers from Israel, and that's how they feel.
Yeah.
Hamas has to go, and they're ready to stay as long as that takes. I have to tell you, too, that we had a memorable day today. Our sister Shirley Arlene is still here. Melinda and I went to the swear-in of the first female mayor of Evansville, Indiana ever, and she's African American. And our cousin Wayne Trockman was there to swear her in. And our cousin Ben, his son, is going to be on the city council and was sworn in. So there's good things happening too, all over.
That's right. It's a changing world,
I think so.
and you just look for these examples of progress. Certainly, women have come a long way in the world, and
Yes,
certainly, marginalized people have come a long way in the world. In
absolutely.
in the United States of America, it's not a perfect culture, but it's. I'm just so glad that I was born in this country in this year. I'm not in this year, but in this season.
Right.
Like
But boy, Saifi, the anti-Semitism going on at the big Ivy Leagues is concerning, and in the neighborhoods and in the dictionaries, the way Jews are being.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, that's in America, and to me, I
Yeah.
thought it was interesting at Cambridge. I mean, I'm an Ivy League guy, but that's,
Yes.
in Europe, the vice chancellor came out on the quick in support of Jewish students and Israelis and all and sympathizing with the pain and suffering. I don't think
Yes.
it's too hard to be able to do that at Harvard or MIT. But I'll tell you
Woo!
something, I've long observed, and this is the problem I have with these Ivy League schools. I was up at Harvard taking a class when Donald Trump was elected president. You'd think the Antichrist came to power. And I have observed in these Ivy League schools, if you don't operate with the sanctioned philosophy there that they abide, everyone's marginalized. It's not just discriminating against Jews now; it's
Yeah.
discriminating against conservatives.
Yeah.
It's just discriminating against anybody that doesn't tote their party line. And to
And
me,
maybe it's changing. Like you said, maybe it's changing.
I hope so. I think a net
Yes.
result here. Let's be liberal in the best sense of the word. Let's expose people to variant perspectives in a way that's dignified and conversational. Let people make up their own mind. And even if one person differs with another, who knows? Maybe we'll be able to better respect the different person with a different idea. But that I'll tell you, and I know this firsthand. I've observed this from a distance, and I felt it, quite frankly, that uh, it's not been the case in Ivy League schools by far. It's been bad.
Yeah.
I hope there'll be a little bit of a reset button. Hey, this has been a good interview. I'm glad we got to
I
chat.
think, and to bring it back to my recovery platform here, it's what you were describing is what we say when we say principles before personalities.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's kind of what you're looking at, how to stay in principles, not marginalize prejudicial conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, white, black, Jew, Christian, agnostic, but let's stick to the principles of humanity. I love that we're on the same track.
Yes, there you go. At least on this. Maybe the
I
next,
love you. Yes, at least on this. And
maybe,
maybe we'll get to Israel with you this year. Who knows?
maybe the next time we do a chat, we'll fight. But at least this one, we're on the same track and pretty much in the same train. It's been great being with you, sweetie.
I love you and keep making the world a better place.
You too, hon. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.